Hi everyone, I'm your classmate Hannah Duncan, and today I will be discussing early Islamic culture and art, specifically through the lens of ornate design. So the art of the Umayyad Caliphate period, which Umayyad ruled from 661 to 750 CE. This period is a time in which uniquely Islamic art began to form and separate from the former Byzantine and Sasanian influences. However, these initial influences and, for lack of a better word, appropriations of early cultures are completely understandable, since artists during this time would have been trained in their own indigenous styles. Places of religious worship, such as the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, which I have a photo of in just a second, have a distinctly Islamic function. This particular Islamic shrine is located in the old city of Jerusalem and was initially completed in 691 or 692 CE at the order of Umayyad Caliph. So this here is a picture of the Dome of the Rock. However, it was pillaged and ruined during the Roman siege of Jerusalem in 70 CE. Subsequently, the dome collapsed in 1015 and was rebuilt around 1022 to 1023 CE. This place of worship and devotion is worth mentioning in this project, since this Islamic shrine is at the core of early Islamic architecture and culture. Periods of classical art and culture tend to be split up by the dynasty that was in power at the time. Today I will be focusing solely on the early Islamic leader, Umayyad Caliphate. The duration of his ruling is known as the Umayyad period, in which there was a rapid development of Islamic art and architecture. There are four main aspects to ornamental Islamic design, and those are calligraphy, vegetal patterns, geometric patterns, and finally, figural representation. One of the core beliefs of Islam is the fact that Allah is omnipresent, He is everywhere, He is everything, and He is everyone. So it might be strange to hear that one of their main pillars is vegetal patterns. However, they believe that a tree is as important as we are, because we are all Allah, we are all made of Him, and we are all His creation. So it makes sense that a lot of these religious paintings and places of religious worship are covered in images of leaves and plants and trees. They are still largely geometric, and they do have a distinct pattern to them, but it's fairly easy to see within those paintings where the influence of nature is. Islam is a largely aniconic religion, which means they're without iconography. So essentially, all of these wall paintings and sculptures, funerary art, are all without subjects. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't themes and religious beliefs embedded within those pieces of art. It just means that they never portray the feeling of Allah through the representation of a physical human being or an animal, or even a symbol that is representative of anything in our material world. The reason early Islamic art is so heavily influenced by cultures like the Byzantine or the Sasanian empires is because it takes time for a culture to develop. It takes time for religious beliefs to spread. And so in the beginnings of cultures, you typically see kind of a cherry picking from different cultures and different religions and lifestyles in order to build this new set of beliefs. Muslims believe that Allah's creation is constantly in flux and ever-changing. Every living being on this planet exists as one large, for lack of a better word, mandala. We are all equal parts of the same machine. If you look at the geometric patterns, a lot of them are heavily influenced by science and math and astrology, and that is because alongside free-flowing artistic energy and nature, there are the sciencey STEM aspects of life, and those both have to exist for the other to exist. One of the first components of early Islamic ornate design is calligraphy. Calligraphy was used on everything, specifically things that were meant to portray a religious message or as a means of producing the Quran itself. Calligraphy is used to ornate buildings such as mosques, madrasas, and mausoleums. It's also used for pottery, funerary art, and even homes. It's incredibly important to the Islamic culture since one of the core beliefs is that the Quran is a direct and literal word of God. So obviously, the ways in which they present these words, lessons, and belief systems is held to the highest of standards. Because of this, an ornamental and aesthetically pleasing written language was developed in order to respect and uplift the Word of God. Maintaining a clear and authentic message is the most important aspect of calligraphy, and because of that very reason, there are several guidelines that you must adhere to. According to the Victoria and Albert Museum, quote, "The words themselves could be written in gold or in colors other than black. Letters and words could also be outlined or could lie against a background pattern. Calligraphers also combined different sizes, colors, and styles of text for the different phrases or sections of the texts, but they always stuck to the rules of proportionality within each section." End quote. So the image on the screen right now is a surviving page of a Quran. It's written in Kufic script, and it originates from 800 to 900 AD, and they believe the original location is in the Middle East or North Africa. The ink is gold, black, and red, and it's written on a piece of parchment. This next image, which is coming up, is a double spread from a Quran from about 1370, and it originates in Iran. So you can tell there's very large borders. There's an ornamental seal or a stamp on the left page. The letters are very clear, very organized. Even the use of gold is subtle. It's not gaudy. It doesn't distract from the black lettering. And it's just very obvious that the author of this page, or I suppose the artist behind it, took a lot of time and energy, and they took measurements, and they worried about composition. So I really like videos. It helps me process information better. So I found a really short video for you guys demonstrating Arabic calligraphy, and it's explained by a professional calligrapher named Taha Al-Hiti. So here it is.
My name is Taha Al-Hiti. I'm an architect and an artist. People just sometimes think that when you do a calligraphy, you just sit down and write like casual writing. And it's the exact opposite from that. It's actually a long process to create a letter of calligraphy. When letters were created as an art, they were based on the human body. The letter would have a chest, the letter would have a lower part of the body, the letter would have a neck. So you can see, for example, the alif, which is the first letter equivalent to the A in Latin. The alif in Arabic is exactly the human posture. It has the chest and the spine, which is leaning slightly forward, and it has the head of the letter. The spine, or the backbone of Islam, is the Quran, which is the holy book. The Prophet realized that the importance of preserving the Quran in such a way that it cannot be altered or changed. All this richness of culture that started brewing under the Islamic pot produced calligraphy in its sophisticated form that we follow until today. We use very strong rules and very tight regulations. Sometimes if you have a pimple on your face, you can see it clearly because it's a bump. Although it's tiny in relation to the size of your body, but you see it, you notice it, and exactly the same way in letters, no matter how big or small they are. And that's what makes calligraphy very challenging, and sometimes people could call it as a labor-intensive art because it takes a lot of hours into one sheet of paper. And the combinations of some letters with others are very hard. There are names in Arabic or words in Arabic which are very hard to write. There are long words in Arabic which I was writing recently, and the problem with the word is that it's such a long word that it eats half of my composition. So half of my composition is eaten by one word, and I have 7 other words to fit in. It's just like trying to get 2 people who don't get on, trying to get them to sit and talk. And sometimes it's very hard because each one snaps from a different angle.